I call to order the regular meeting of April the 26th.
Pardon me, Dr. Hesberg.
Fine. I have called the meeting, the regular meeting to order. Leah Smith, would you please call the roll?
Vice Chair Carlisle.
Here.
Board Member Asaf. Board Member Corbin.
Here.
Board Member Kennedy. Board Member Kilgus.
Here.
Board Member Ochab.
Here.
Board Member Richner.
Here.
Board Member Wixon.
Here.
Mayor Denner.
Here.
And Chairman Hesberg.
Here. Lena Carlisle as Vice Chair of the Downtown Development Authority. You have presented the minutes of the meeting of February 2nd. Are there comments relative to those minutes?
I would move they be adopted as presented.
It has been moved that the minutes be adopted. All those in favor?
We need a second.
Isn't it seconded?
I'll support Chairman Hesberg. This is Richard.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded that the minutes be approved as circulated. Leah Smith, would you please call the question?
Yes. Vice Chair Carlisle.
Aye.
Chairman Corbin. Sorry.
Aye.
Board Member Kilgus.
Aye.
Board Member Ochab.
Aye.
Board Member Richner.
Aye.
Board Member Wixon. Mayor Denner.
Aye.
And Chairman Hesberg.
Aye. The minutes of the meeting of February the 2nd have been approved. Mr. Seisland, is there any old business?
We have to go to a public comment first. I do not have any written public comment, but I'm asking at this time if there's any verbal written comment for those in attendance to please raise their hand. Leah, do we have any public comment?
Director Seisland and Chairman Hesberg, I have no public comment at this time.
There being no public comment, Mr. Seisland, do you want to then proceed with any old business updates?
Yes, Chairman Hesberg and board members, thank you for being here tonight. I just wanted to provide a brief update in regards to our COVID-19 Reopening Assistance Program Round 2. There was a memo that was circulated in our packet. As of April 20th, we received 3 letters of interest requesting funding. All 3 of these businesses have been awarded funds totaling $9,925, and awarded funds have been utilized for revenue recovery and for upgrades to an air purification system. $7,075 is still available in the DDA, and round 2 will not close until May 14th. And so that is my brief little update for COVID-19. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
I see no hands raised. Mr. Seisland, do you want to proceed?
I have just one question.
Oh, okay.
How has our response been from the businesses, Mr. Seisland? Has it, we gotten quite a few inquiries?
So we've received a couple inquiries. Mainly we have Mimi's Bistro that is received, and the cleaners as well. I believe it's City Cleaners is the other, and there is a office building that has a tenant in there that's for air purification systems. And so at this time, that's who Leah Smith, who is our grant coordinator, has been working with. And we're also advertising as well and letting those businesses know that there still is this opportunity out there of that $7,075. And we still have quite a bit of time, but certainly we're going to get that message out, promptly before the closing of the application.
Okay, thank you.
I believe comfortably we can spend that money to the businesses before closing date.
Nick, if that money isn't spent, does it roll into the next year? How does that work?
Yes, so Board Member Wixon, we could either extend the deadline if we feel that we needed to extend that a little bit for the applicants, or if not, that would roll over into the next fiscal year budget.
Okay, thank you.
when is the deadline, Nick? Did you say it was May 14th?
That's correct.
That's not that, I mean, it's only 2 weeks away. Do we expect other applicants between now and then, or what do you think?
I expect to have a couple, Leah, do you have any comment regarding that? I know you're working and you might have another one or two in the hopper right now.
Yes, so there is two more businesses that I'm going to do some additional outreach to who have not applied yet, just to see if there's anything eligible that they've spent money on that they might be able to utilize our funding for. Additionally, I have talked with Director Seislin previously about potentially going back to the businesses already awarded and seeing if they have additional eligible expenses. The DDA is quite small, so the businesses who have applied, I don't want to say I think that's it, but there's only two more for us to reach out to. So if you know of people who haven't applied yet, please reach out to them and let them know, because I'd like to get all the money spent before the deadline.
Yeah, there's a $3,500 cap per business. Is that right? We still have that cap?
That was the original cap, for first applicants that receive, but obviously if we don't have any other interest, that's where we'll open up the rest of those funds, and depending upon how many applicants apply and depending upon what they're requesting, we'll try and distribute that as evenly as possible.
Okay, so you have the authority to increase the cap if you need to.
That's
right?
correct.
If there is no further discussion of the old business related to COVID-19 grants, let us proceed to new business. Mr. Seislin, do you want to begin the discussion of the 21-22 budget?
Yes, thank you, Chairman Hesberg. So before you tonight, this is a preliminary and proposed DDA budget for the upcoming fiscal year of 2021-22. Our current fiscal year will end on June 30th. And so before you, the DDA 2021 budget, which is our current fiscal year right now, was $130,000 with $113,426 from captured property taxes and about $16,500 in reserves. Year to date, as of April 22nd, the DDA has spent approximately $80,711 of its current budget. New budget items, and I'll go through a couple of those right now, actually line by line. So in the proposed budget, we have for traffic, pedestrian, walkways, $10,000. For attorney legal services for Mr. Howlett and his firm is $15,000. For grounds, which is Southern Gardner, that is our city contractor that works on the traffic medians over on Jefferson and in front of City Hall, for approximately $25,000, and the flowers that you see in the lampposts. And I'd like to further discuss capital improvements. The reason that you're seeing such a significant number within the capital improvements fund is working with our city engineers. We're evaluating our storm and sanitary system. And so about 25 years ago, I think it was roughly 96 or 97, the city had separated itself, which was a combined system, into a separate storm and sanitary. As we were reviewing our system, we came and found that through our engineered drawings, it looked like we had a storm line that extended all the way from the corner on Jefferson at Lake Point to Maryland. Upon further review, this storm line is not there. And so this is a significant, rainwater and others that could be going into our combined system, potentially, with added cost and effects to our pump station. And so what I would like to propose, working with our city engineer, and we're seeing too if there's availability for grant funding either through SEMCOG or another green foundation, to actually build a stormwater line that would extend from Lake Point to Maryland off of Jefferson. And so that is why you see that significant amount for $50,000. This is just a preliminary number at this time. And before, if that project were to move forward, I would certainly ask the board for that approval later at the time. There's a line item for $10,000 for a DDA director. If the DDA were to hire a director for services. Right now, I currently am the director acting as city manager. $15,000 for COVID-19 business support. This would be another grant opportunity similar to what we have right now. And certainly we would like to see if we could expand upon that further so that we could spend those funds. And your next item is public works moving expenses. So the current building on Jefferson is slated to be torn down after it is completed with their new Mack Avenue location. At this time, we are still hoping for a late fall completion of that project. With that said, our public works employees and their equipment can certainly move some of it over there. But as well, there is some that we'd probably have to hire some contractors to bring over our equipment. So that's why you see that line item of $14,000. In total, the appropriations for the proposed budget would be approximately $139,000. $114,060 is from captured tax revenue. And the allocation of reserves would be $25,000, compiling that $139,000. At this time, I would certainly be happy to review any questions or concerns or comments if you would like within this budget before we send this on to City Council for their budget review hearing on May 6th. I'll go, it looks like Board Member Wixon was first, and then I'll go on Richner and Ochab.
Okay, just a couple things. So the capital improvements, you're thinking that's going to be 50,000 all in, or because you mentioned trying to get grants for this. Are you thinking of using this 50,000 in addition to grants, or is this 50,000 going to cover the total cost of this reconnection or this new connection?
So depending upon the grants that could be available, sometimes it's a 50-50 match. You might have the ability that they could pay for 100%. And so my first thought is certainly to see if we can get some help from a grant, whatever way that is possible. I don't have a number right now. Preliminary estimates from the engineers estimated 50,000, but that is a very rough number at this time. So that could certainly fluctuate and be higher or be lower. And then obviously with materials right now in COVID-19, they are at a higher expense than during non-COVID. So right now we just wanted to be able to provide that 50,000. We do have extra money within the DDA of about 80,000 reserves. If need be, that would be something that at a later time, and if we were to move with this project or something else, I would ask the board to be able to bring those monies into the DDA budget.
Okay, so if I'm understanding this right, the way this is connected right now, the water isn't draining into the storm drains, it's draining into like the wastewater?
That's correct. It's right now, it is a combined system. And so all of that rainwater on Jefferson and Lake Point and Maryland at the corner, that's currently going into our pump station right behind me over on City Hall property, instead of going out to our storm system over at Patterson Park.
Okay. I have one more comment, and then I can, resign from my speaking here. But one thing I wanted to kind of comment on, and I think because this money is captured within the DDA district from tax revenue, I mean, I think the sewer connection, it makes sense, I guess. But I do have some concerns about the DPW moving expenses, and I'm just wondering, is that normal for the DDA to be paying for that? I mean, it seems to me that we're supposed to be spending for economic growth, and I mean, you could say that moving a building to open a new business could cause economic growth, but it's kind of a big question mark, really. And I kind of have some concerns about that. The number isn't massive, but given that our budget isn't that big either, I almost wonder if that's something that could come out of another city budget.
Yeah, that's something we could definitely look to put in another city budget, or whether that's through the city. Because it couldn't go under Tifa because the Tifa's
Sure.
on the other side, obviously. So
Sure.
if that's something that the board certainly expresses that they'd like to see that number reduced or eliminated, I'd be happy to make that amendment to this proposed budget. And just as a little bit information, as well as the Public Works facility is within the DDA. The DDA, is allowed to help with public facilities. I can certainly respect and understand your opinion as well, that, we do have a limited budget, and certainly we'd like to see some of those funds used for potential economic growth or safety. So I think that's a great observation, and I certainly respect it. And, I'd be happy if the board agrees, or I'd be happy to hear other thoughts as well. So I think that was a great thought.
I agree. I think it was a very prudent comment, and I thank you for it.
And then I think board member Richner was next.
Thanks, Nick. Are we being asked to vote on this tonight? I assume the proposed budget, right?
So after this, and I'll use the city attorney for help in crafting that motion, but as part of this, what I'll be doing at the end is asking you to approve the proposed budget, and that will then go to city council, and city council will then look to approve that budget. And then we will have to come back at a future DDA meeting to adopt that budget. This budget.
Okay, so this is just the first of several steps, it sounds like, because I know you've described the CSO issue with some detail, but we didn't get any backup information in preparation for this meeting, and it's hard to make any decisions based on very little information. But look, I'm no expert on this, but I assume that the city generally pays for sewage projects out of the water revenues, but maybe I'm wrong on that. Or is our property taxes exclusively used for projects like this? I just don't, not having recent exposure to the city budgeting overall, I don't know how this project would, end up in a DDA budget versus another revenue source.
And so, yeah, there's a number of avenues that this could derive from. Obviously, one being the DDA here, and being this is within the DDA district. Also, there is, some funds available within the water and sewer. Obviously, as well, there are some funds that are available within reserves of the city general fund. And obviously, if we can take our first crack at grants, that'll help every one of those budgets. That's going to be our first priority, is to really try and comb through and see if we can get some support in there. I know Southeast Michigan Council of Governments is one of those entities that I would really like to look at for grant funding. They do have a green infrastructure program that our engineers and I believe that we could probably get some funding availability.
I didn't follow that, Mr. Seisler.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Hesberg. I'll restate clearly. So board member Richner asked, is this project, could it come from the, which revenue sources, could we look to do this from? One being the DDA, since this is in the DDA district for this proposed idea. One could be from the water and sewer fund of the city, and also possibly within city reserves. As well, there is an opportunity, and we're still awaiting further guidance from the federal government, but the city of Grosse Pointe Park is set to receive $1.1 million that was signed by the president, that is to be used for water, sewer, broadband, and economic assistance for businesses. And we're still awaiting those guidelines further from the Treasury. And so that potentially could be another avenue for this project.
Okay.
Will there be a potential savings to the water rates by constructing this project, separating the treatment of the water from the sewage? I mean, it seems like there'd be a potential savings, but maybe I'm wrong on that.
Yes, there would be a potential savings. I couldn't give you that exact number right now. That'd be something our engineers would have to calculate. As well, it's also helpful, in not overloading our system, especially when we have strong storm events. If you look at Jefferson, obviously it is a large county road, and that is a lot of rainwater going into our combined system. And so any way that we can help dry out our system, the city has proactively tried to do over the years, from disconnecting parking lots, and then going into homes that had downspouts still connected, and other areas that we can try and make sure, dry out our system.
So if the cost of the project is being borne, it sounds like 100% by the DDA. Is that right? Unless you get grant funding?
Unless we get grant funding, or if there's availability potentially within that 1.1 from the president's bill that he signed, or as well if there's a potential maybe within the city that they could help too.
So you would think that if we're paying 100% of the cost, we get 100% of the benefit too, in terms of savings in the water rates. I don't know, it's just an idea. I don't know if that's possible, but it just seems like an unusual expense for a DDA to pay for infrastructure like that. I mean, as you mentioned, our goal here is to really develop the business district and make it more attractive, more appealing, generate some additional tax revenues by just growing the property values in the area. But I guess, as you mentioned, the first of many steps, so maybe we'll get another chance to look at this. And one other we had was about the traffic and pedestrian walkways. We have 10,000 budgeted for that. What's the thinking there? What another crosswalk perhaps, or?
Could be another crosswalk. Some of those funds could be used. We're working currently on our city master plan, and some of those funds could be used towards a parking study as well for in the district. And obviously updated signage too. That's something we're continuously trying to update, working with the county. It is a little more difficult working on Jefferson Avenue, being a county road, working with them because they have set requirements of what we are allowed to have and not allowed. And at 100% of the time, you have to get county approval.
And I'd thrown this out earlier on, but I do think we could use another crosswalk across Jefferson. Recently, I was over Nottingham and Jefferson witnessing people, jaywalking to get across to the pizza place, and in the middle of Jefferson. It just seems like an unsafe kind of, you have to go a couple blocks to find the nearest crosswalk. I think we could potentially use another crosswalk there, and I just throw that out for your consideration.
Oh, absolutely. That's great.
Okay. Are you through, Andrew?
Oh,
Yes, I am. Sorry to take so much time.
Ms. Ochab was next, board member
I'm sorry.
Carlisle, and then you're next.
Right. I just had a question. I know earlier, Nick, I had asked about this. Just looking at the year-over-year comparison for the budget this year is almost 60,000 more than our current year spending. Is there anything else major that is changing this year, or is a bulk of that really the plan for the capital improvement?
It would be the bulk of that is planned for the capital improvement.
Okay, and then I guess just a general comment, just for myself in reviewing this, it would be helpful if we could get a breakdown of where we've spent like in these same categories this year, just to make sure that what we're budgeting for next year is kind of appropriate and in line with what current year spending is, unless there's any major changes. And then my second comment would just be to second what board member Wixom said in regards to the DPW moving expenses, and if that's necessarily something that should possibly be coming out of a different budget, or if that's something that is appropriate for this budget to cover.
Okay, no, certainly great comments, and definitely make those.
Thank
And
you.
my question was along the same line. I wondered what the legal fees had been for the budget during 20.
And so during 20, the legal fees were $20,000, and at this time we're proposing $15,000. So it's a $5,000 reduction in legal fees.
Are there any further comments? Do we then have a motion to approve the budget?
Seconded.
Is it seconded?
I have a quick question, Chairman. I'm sorry to interrupt. And maybe I don't know the procedure here, but is there further discussion that maybe about this, the expenses for the DPW or even the water connection that we need to, I don't know if we table it or if we try to explore another source of revenue for these, because I think there was some discussion about those, and I mean, I guess I'd like to hear where other people stand on those issues, because I also think that board member Richner did bring up a point. My thought with the water connection and reason I thought that, okay, I can go for it is because the money's captured from the neighborhood and it's being used for the neighborhood to their benefit, I guess, because if it storms, their basements aren't going to back up as easily. So I guess that's where my justification was coming from it. But I also see as to why maybe, this grant that we're getting from the federal government, this seems like the perfect project for that too. So not to drag this thing out further, but.
Mr. Mayor?
Just further discussion on that topic. I agree with the logic of why it can fit in the DDA budget. I think in order to allow for it, I think putting it in the budget is probably prudent, because then we can proceed with planning for it. At this point, it's not a commitment to spend; it's just an allowance in the budget, so that the project itself, when it comes to the contractor and a contract, if in fact at the end of the day it needs to be borne by this budget, then that decision to hire for a specific contract would come back to this board. In the meantime, the city will be working on grants and the possible allocation of that of the federal money, which can be used for infrastructure. If those come to fruition and the city then recommends that those funds be used, then this budget line item, even if we approve it as part of the budget, would go unspent for us as a board, and would be absorbed by through another revenue source. So right now, it's really just a provision that says if for whatever reason the other funding sources don't come through, that we would like to see this project go forward, and we'd be willing to fund it. That's really what the decision, I think, is on approving the budget with that line item.
Okay, no, that makes sense, Mayor Denner. I guess really the thing that I just want to just be sure of is that, if we approve it as, this is our proposed spending for these line items, that we don't just, we don't just say in 5 months that, oh, it was already budgeted in the DDA, let's not worry about looking for grants. So if we can, I mean, these are things that obviously need to happen either way, but I just don't want to see that happen, because, it just seems like with our budget as small as it is, these two projects, I mean, they cover nearly half of it together combined. So just something to think about. I mean, there's obviously still a lot that can be done in the district with the money that we have. And, we're in a pandemic. So I'd like to see the thoughts of, this board approving monies to go to economic improvement rather than like infrastructure and things like that are related to the entire city. So that's all. That's the last I'll say on that. So
We appreciate your comments. Leah Smith, would you please call the question?
I'm sorry, did we get a second and I missed it?
I'll second.
Yeah,
Second.
it was seconded.
Thank you, Board Member Richner. Okay, Vice Chair Carlisle,
Aye.
Board Member Corbin,
Aye.
Board Member Kilgus,
Aye.
Board Member Ochop,
Aye.
Board Member Richner,
Aye.
Board Member Wixon.
Aye.
Mayor Denner,
Aye.
and Chairman Hesberg.
Aye. The budget as presented has been approved. Now, Mr. Seisland, are there any public comments on non-agenda items?
Chairman Hesberg, I do not have any written public comment, but I'll ask Miss Leah Smith if we have any spoken public comment.
I'm Director Seisland. I do have one person in the queue for public comment. So I'm going to go ahead and share my timer. And then Brian, you are first in the queue. If you can please unmute yourself and state your full name and city of residency for the record, please go ahead.
Brian Vosberg, Grosse Pointe Park. And I just wanted to thank the DDA board for this great discussion tonight on the agenda items, and thank you for all the thought and research that you put into this. And I look forward to seeing the changes that were discussed at the meeting tonight and the next budget that you consider. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You.
Director Seisland and Chairman Hesberg, I have no further public comment at this time.
That being the case, does anyone else in attendance have a comment? If not, I'll call for adjournment. Leah Smith, would you call the question? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll propose a motion to adjourn.
And a second?
A second.
It's been moved and seconded that the regular meeting of the Downtown Development Authority of April 26th, 2021 be adjourned. Leah Smith, would you call the question?
Yes, I can. Vice Chair Carlisle. Sorry, Vice Chair Carlisle, you're muted.
Aye.
Board Member Corbin,
Aye.
Board Member Kilgus,
Aye.
Board Member Ochop,
Aye.
Board Member Richner,
Aye.
Board Member Wixon,
Aye.
Mayor Denner,
Aye.
and Chairman Hesberg.
Aye. It has been moved, seconded, and approved that we adjourn the regular meeting of April the 26th. Thank you to all of you who have been in attendance.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.